All right, so you're here because you want to get right to the heart of things, right? You want to understand something really important, like how to actually be well, but without getting bogged down in a ton of information. You want the core insights, clear and quick.
Absolutely.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing today. We're diving deep into what we're calling Chapter 1.
That's right. We have this fascinating text on the signs of being well, and in this deep dive, we're going straight to the source, to its very first chapter.
It's like we're extracting the absolute fundamental principles here, the bedrock of this whole understanding of health. And as always, our mission is to make this knowledge useful for you, practically speaking.
Exactly.
So we're going to unpack the central ideas of this Chapter 1 and figure out, like, what do they really mean for you and your well-being?
Right.
And the very first thing it puts forward is this idea that health is the perfectly natural performance of function.
Yeah, and the word natural really jumps out at me there. It's framing health as your body just doing what it's made to do, operating without any interference. It's not about chasing some external standard. It's more about your internal systems just, working the way they should.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because it's not about reaching some arbitrary goal. It's just about your body functioning the way it's naturally designed.
Exactly.
And this perfectly natural performance, the chapter says, is not just some random chance happening. It actually results from the natural action of the principle of life. Now, that might sound a little, abstract.
Right.
But they go on to explain, describing it as a one living substance that permeates the entire universe. It's in and through all things.
It's like this fundamental energy, this life force that connects everything.
Yeah, like this underlying all-pervasive energy.
Yeah, right, exactly. And when you connect that to the bigger picture, what the chapter is doing is setting up this foundation where health is not just, a series of biological events. It's something tied to this universal life force, so it's a much more holistic perspective, suggesting that there's this inherent drive within life itself towards optimal function.
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting, because as a part of this living substance, you possess, the text says, a principle of health within you.
You have that within you.
And they even specify, principle means source here. So basically, the very source of your health is located within you. It's not something external. It's right there inside you.
Absolutely. It's not something that you have to go searching for outside of yourself.
Right.
It's already there, fundamental to your existence as part of this living substance. Think of it like the potential within, say, an acorn to grow into a mighty oak tree.
Oh, that's a great analogy. And so the chapter goes on to say that when this principle of health within you is in full constructive activity, it means all your voluntary bodily functions are just operating perfectly.
Everything's in sync.
It's like, imagine that. Walking, breathing, your digestive system, everything's just in perfect harmony.
It's really emphasizing the active nature of this principle. It's not just a static thing. It's a force that's constantly working towards optimal function in your body.
Yeah, it's not just sitting there passively. It's actively working to keep things in balance and functioning as they should.
Right. When it's fully engaged, your body just works the way it's supposed to.
And here's a key statement. The text says that this principle of health in man really works all healing, no matter what system or remedy is employed.
Wow.
It's quite a statement. It is, because what they're saying is, whether you're taking medication, doing alternative therapies, changing your diet, the actual healing force is not that external thing itself.
That's right. It's really profound because it shifts the focus away from the treatment and towards your body's own inherent ability to heal.
It's not the medicine, it's your body doing the work.
It's like those external methods are more like facilitators. You know? They're helping to create the right conditions. But the real work of healing is done by this internal principle of health.
Okay, but then the big question becomes, how do we actually get this principle of health into this state of full constructive activity? And here, Chapter 1 offers a really interesting clue. It says that it's brought into constructive activity by thinking in a certain way. Now, that's a huge connection they're making there.
It is. It's a really pivotal point because it's introducing this crucial link between our mental state and our physical well-being. The way we think impacts our health.
And it's setting the stage to explore, how exactly do our thoughts influence this healing power that we have within us? To back this up, they give some pretty interesting, seemingly contradictory evidence. They point out that cures have been achieved through allopathy, which often uses strong doses to counteract illness, and homeopathy, which uses highly diluted substances that actually mimic the illness. They describe these as radically opposite approaches.
And what's fascinating is the implication there. It's saying that as one of these totally different approaches works, the other probably won't for the same problem.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And this inconsistency across different healing systems starts to suggest that maybe there's something else going on, something beyond the specific treatment itself that's the key factor here.
Exactly, and it's not just between different systems either. Even within the same medical approach, the chapter points out that if you went to multiple doctors for, say, indigestion, they'd probably prescribe completely different ingredients.
It really shows the variety in external treatments. If it was all about the specific chemical compounds, you'd think there'd be more consistency within the same medical system.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The fact that there's so much difference, even within the same approach, raises this question. When healing does happen, what's the common thread there?
Yeah, and that leads to this direct question in the text. Must we not conclude that their patients are healed by a principle of health within themselves and not by something in the varying remedies? It's a really powerful question.
It is. It really challenges us to think beyond just the surface level of the treatment and look for that underlying mechanism of healing. What is it that allows these different approaches to sometimes be effective?
Right. And the chapter keeps going, listing even more diverse methods that have been associated with cures. There's osteopathy, which uses manipulation, faith healing through prayer, food science through diet, Christian science through belief, mental science through affirmations, and hygienists who use specific lifestyle changes. It's like a whole spectrum.
It's a pretty diverse range of approaches, right?
It is.
And it's really striking because it shows just how many different things people believe can actually lead to better health. From physical interventions to spiritual practices to mental disciplines, so many different modalities that people have found success with.
So what do we make of all this variety? The text argues that the most logical explanation is that there's a single principle of health present in all of us that's ultimately responsible for these cures, regardless of the specific method.
It's like the common denominator, this inherent capacity for healing within each individual that gets activated despite the many different approaches people take.
Yeah, and this leads to a really crucial understanding. These various systems, according to Chapter 1, only work when they somehow cause this principle of health to become active. So whether it's medicine or manipulation or prayer, it's about activating that internal principle.
Right, so they're not the source of the healing itself. They're more like catalysts for your body's own ability to restore itself. It's less about the specific ingredients or techniques and more about their ability to stimulate this principle of health within you.
And that brings us to another big question the chapter poses. Does not all this indicate that the results depend upon the way the patient thinks about the remedy, rather than upon the ingredients in the prescription? This really puts the emphasis on the patient's mindset, doesn't it?
It does. It highlights the power of belief and expectation in the healing process.
Your attitude matters.
It really does. Because what the chapter is suggesting is that your mental attitude towards the treatment could be just as important, if not more so, than the treatment itself.
And to really drive this point home, they tell a very memorable story about the miracle-working relics of a saint. These bones, kept in a monastery, were believed to have this power to heal people miraculously.
You've heard about this, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Someone secretly replaced those bones with the bones of a murderer. And guess what? The healings supposedly continued.
It's a great story. And whether it's historically accurate or not, the text itself acknowledges that. The real point is the implication. The power wasn't in the bones themselves. It was in the faith and belief of the people who were seeking help.
Exactly, and they state this directly, that the healing power had been in the people themselves all the time and never in the bones at all. Wow.
It's a powerful illustration of where true healing really originates.
Right, it really reinforces that the capacity to heal is within you. The external things, whether it's saint bones or modern medicine, they're just a focal point, like a trigger.
Exactly. They can help to focus and direct your own internal healing potential.
And whether that potential becomes active, they say, does not depend upon the physical or mental means used, but upon the way the patient thinks about these means. It's all about your perception and your belief.
Which brings us right back to that idea of thinking in a certain way. It's not just about the treatment being there, it's about your mental engagement with it, your faith in its ability to help you heal.
Yeah, and the chapter then broadens the perspective, talking about a universal principle of life, and it even references Jesus's teachings as an example of this great spiritual healing power. It connects this universal power to the principle of health in man.
It's suggesting that this capacity for health we have isn't isolated. It's connected to a much larger universal life force, like this fundamental energy of well-being.
It's adding this whole other dimension to their understanding of health.
It is. It's introducing a spiritual aspect.
And this principle of health within us, they explain, is either dormant or active, according to the way a man thinks. So our thoughts have a direct impact on how strong that inner source of healing is.
That's so empowering to think about.
It is.
Because it means you're not just passively receiving health or illness. Your own mental state plays a huge role in how you feel.
And that's the thing. The text says you can always quicken it into activity by thinking in a certain way. It's like you have this inner reserve of health that you can tap into through your thoughts.
And it has huge implications because they go on to say that getting well doesn't depend on finding the perfect medical system or the one miracle cure or the ideal climate or even your profession, unless, as they point out, you're working in a really toxic environment, of course.
Right. Instead, they say, and this is a direct quote, your getting well depends upon your beginning to think and act in a certain way. So it's this whole interconnected perspective where your mindset and your actions both play a part.
It's about aligning your inner world with your outer world.
Exactly. And how do we determine how we think? Well, Chapter I explains that the way a man thinks about things is determined by what he believes about them. So our beliefs shape our thoughts.
Our fundamental convictions, our underlying beliefs are what really drive our thinking.
And those thoughts, in turn, are driven by faith. They say his thoughts are determined by his faith, and the results depend upon his making a personal application of his faith. So it's not just about having a belief in general, it's about actively applying that belief to your own situation.
That's such an important distinction, personal application.
Yeah.
They point out that a lot of people might have faith in healing for others. They believe someone else can get better, but they struggle to apply that same faith to themselves.
To their own health and well-being.
Exactly.
So the big takeaway from Chapter 1, and they say this explicitly, faith, personally applied, cures.
Even if you have strong beliefs, even if you have consistent positive thoughts, it's not enough unless you actively direct that faith towards your own healing.
You have to actually apply it.
You do.
And that brings us to their definition of the science of being well. It encompasses the two fields of thought and action. So it's not just about thinking the right way, it's about living in a way that aligns with that.
It's about putting those thoughts into practice.
Yeah, and they conclude by saying that just thinking in a certain way isn't enough. You have to apply his thought to himself, and he must express and externalize it in his outward life by acting in the same way that he thinks. It's about that harmony between what you believe and what you do.
It's a complete system, you know? Beliefs shape thoughts, applied faith fuels action, and all of that together is what activates that principle of health within you.
Yeah, so we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into Chapter 1. We've got these fundamental ideas. Health as our natural state of perfect function, fueled by this universal principle of life that we all have within us as this principle of health.
And it's this internal healing power that's activated by thinking in a specific way and by personally applying our faith. It's a very empowering perspective.
It really is. The message is that the ultimate source of your health, your potential for healing, it lies within you.
Absolutely. Your mindset, your beliefs, your conscious choice to apply faith to your own life, that's what activates that principle of health.
So here's a question for you to think about. Considering that healing comes from within based on how you think, what's one small shift in your thinking about your own well-being that you could explore today? What's one belief about your own health that you could start to cultivate a bit more intentionally? It's definitely a lot to think about.
It is.
And we'll pick up on these ideas in our next deep dive. Until then, be well.